Hello, this is SD team number 2. I'm Emily Walker.
I'm Taylor Bazin.
I'm Olivia Peters.
I'm Ricky Dean.
So I worked with the Tabernacle for this project. I worked with their community food pantry. I chose this because of the relationship that it has to my church. I volunteered on March 18th, 2018. So I decided to volunteer here because of some issues that I saw, and one of those being the social distancing measures that this food pantry was facing. This particular food pantry is very small, so even having more than 4 volunteers in the building at the same time cuts the social distancing guidelines close. So last thing we want is for the volunteers to get sick. So we needed a method of serving people that works with the social distancing guidelines. The leadership techniques that I presented to the organization to work with this is delegation, listening, and learning from experience. So the benefits of delegation is it frees time for other activities. One thing that can be a drawback, it can make people feel lesser than because they may feel like they are being told what to do. Another leadership technique I recommended was listening, because the best way to understand your team members is through communication, and it builds that communication with your team members. One drawback can be an interpretation of a lack of confidence. It may seem like you don't know what you're doing or you're misunderstanding what others have to say, but in the end, it really does build communication. And then learning from experience is another leadership technique that I recommended. It gives the opportunity to receive feedback and apply that feedback in the future. So one drawback from that is it can be challenging to apply new information when it's a drastic change. An example of delegating is I could ask another volunteer to deliver the wagon of food that we put together to the car after I pack them. And then meanwhile, I can ask another volunteer to stock the shelves so they're better prepared for the next person that comes in. An example of using listening as a leadership technique would be to listen to the needs and concerns of those visiting the food pantry to better serve them and get what they need. And an example of learning from experience is listening to the feedback of the people that collected food from the food pantry so we can better serve those that are coming the next week. So 2 things that I learned personally from this experience is that delegating tasks is something you can do even if you aren't ultimately in charge. So you don't have to be the main leader to be able to delegate tasks in a situation. And learning from experience is one of the best ways to develop yourself for the future. You really gain knowledge and skills that you can take to other things that you're doing in the future.
My name is Taylor Bazin, and for the Community Service Project, I chose to volunteer at the Barn for Equine Learning. The barn is a well-known equine therapy barn in Lowell, Michigan. I have done volunteer work with them before, and it's an organization that I care a lot about. The barn is a nonprofit equine therapy barn that helps people from all walks of life and uses the power of the horse in a therapy setting. I volunteered there on March 4th, which included talking about some of the issues the organization was having. Given the nature of the work, it's understandable that paperwork would sometimes fall to the wayside, since most of their energy is either put into the therapy itself or the maintenance of the property, since they have about 70 acres. At times, it can be hard to know the protocol for paperwork and processing donations. As it stands, paperwork is typically put in a basket and sorted through once, sometimes twice a month. Within the physical filing system, there are duplicates of files and papers that are out of place and in the wrong files. There's no set way the barn processes incoming paperwork, such as bills and donations. Donors are usually sent a thank you card as well as a tax deduct slip. However, it's not always timely. So the leadership techniques that I propose to help combat some of this issue would be building technical competence. And this involves how it contributes to the overall mission. A benefit from this would be streamlining protocols frees up more time for others to do more important things. So Kat, the president of the company, if she were to allow paperwork to take, let's say, 2 hours a week instead of 5 hours a week, that extra 3 hours a week can go towards something that would further the mission's goals. A benefit, or I'm sorry, a drawback is not wanting to cause the feeling of incompetence, because it's not often that people from a lower rank wants to point out the flaws of a system. So that is something to be careful about. Another technique would be diagnosing performance problems in individuals and groups. This means making sure employees know what is expected of them. And in this case, it might be volunteers. So a benefit of this would be fixing bugs in the system so it can run more smoothly, like faulty filing systems. However, employees or volunteers might be resistant to this change. So the first item of business is to figure out where the problem starts. And then you have to coach your volunteers to learn the new system and so that that new system can actually be put to work. The third technique that I used was problem solving, which means kind of identifying the problem in areas of improvement, analyzing the cause, and then developing solutions. This technique is effective and to the point. However, the lack of implementation of a new system could be devastating. So the problem was not having a set protocol for paperwork. Now, finding the cause, could it be from just laziness of volunteers? Could it be from not spending enough time with it? Could it be from not being organized enough with it? All of those could be places where the cause would reside. So from this volunteering, I learned that it's okay to give suggestions to those who have more authority than yourself. Although it's a scary thought to have, and it's not really something anyone wants to do, but if you believe that your idea could be helpful to the company and their mission and their values, it's more than likely the best thing to do is to speak up so that others know of your ideas. Another insight that I had was improvement in a scale now saves time and frustration down the road. So if the barn went through their entire filing system and their entire paperwork system, and we're able to streamline it right now, think of all the 3-hour time blocks down the road during the weeks that she would be able to save and put towards forwarding the goals and the mission of the nonprofit itself. So I thought that was really important as well.
Hi, I'm Olivia Peters, and I did my project with the Boys and Girls Club of Bay Mills. Now, the reason why I chose this organization is because I've had previous involvement in fundraising with them. And we did a haunted house, and I saw firsthand how much of an impact that they made on the community, not just with, their members, their youth members, but also, with their parents and, everybody that wasn't even involved in the organization. They aim to inspire and enable all young people. Bay Mills is actually on a Native American reservation, and their youth are at risk of things like addiction and suicide and things of that sort. So it's very important to have early intervention to prevent those kinds of issues from arising in the future. I volunteered with this organization from March 16th all the way up until just recently. The onset of COVID-19, the pandemic, and the associating quarantine set up all kinds of new issues. I spoke with the assistant director, and she indicated that there is a need for setting up new organizational structures to help, ease that transition into working remotely. There was inefficient communication during this transition, and their number one priority is providing emotional support and as well as educational support to their members. Some of the leadership techniques that I came up to help with these issues are empowerment with the use of decentralized organizational structure, which pretty much just means that they move the task assignments down the chain of command. The benefits to this would be that it would relieve the burden of top management so that they might be able to focus on more specified tasks relating to strategy or vision. Another benefit would be the motivation that it would give to the individuals that are receiving these new responsibilities. They would also be, they probably have more of a motivation because they would want to do a good job, and show that they actually have promotion potential. Another leadership technique that I came up with was communication. There's a business model called the as is to be business model, which is pretty much an organizational model that shows what the organization looked like before the change and then after. So once you make the first organizational chart, then you're able to find little inefficiencies or problems that might arise, and then create the to be organizational chart, which would actually help, with all the flow and everything that the organization underwent during the transition. One of the benefits to this model is the transparency, because you would be able to see, exactly what is expected of you. A drawback is that it limits innovation and creative thinking on that matter. Sometimes in problem solving, we rely on our instincts, which is a valuable asset in problem solving. Another leadership technique that I came up with was building effective relationships with peers. Now this comes with a new technology called Slack. Now this is on the web, and it's pretty much a group chat that has hashtags that can organize the information, so you could do like a hashtag marketing after what you had chose to talk about, and that would organize it into the marketing file. And so all these group chats are able to be archived, and you can share with other members. It could even be used for training purposes. So all these benefits that come with Slack, you could also extend to the Boys and Girls Club members and their parents, so that they could be able to see all the information that's being shared, and that would also give them a little bit of integrity of them as, supervisors, I guess, of their kids. One drawback of Slack is that technical abilities may vary. So some of the staff or kids or parents, they might not, be able to utilize all the benefits of Slack. Some of the personal insights that I gained during this project is that the use of a decentralized process model, it would really help me when I become a manager or somewhere in leadership, to learn how to delegate efficiently, because that would be able to tell me exactly who would be in charge, who their subordinates were, and I'd be able to express those models to those workers as well. The Slack program would be useful in planning, personal events, like fundraisers or weddings or things of that sort. So those are some of the kinds of things that I learned from these tools.
My name is Ricky Dean, and for my community services project, I chose the Family Futures organization. Now, Family Future is a nonprofit organization in the greater Grand Rapids area of Michigan, and they work more so to create communities, in which children can achieve their full potential. So they work a lot with kids who have been physically, mentally, verbally abused, and also for parents who are experiencing some home issues and issues as well. Now, to be honest, I actually chose this organization because I was supposed to have an internship with them, and I spoke with them about that, but it was too late. And then the more I did research and began to speak with people in the middle of March, I started to understand during the COVID-19 situation that I think I would be a great asset to volunteer there. And that's where that got, and plus my love for children as well. So that's kind of where that started with the company. Now they're known, their mission reflects their passion, and that's to shape a community in which all children can reach their full potential. And now, as far as some issues and problems that Family Futures had was staffing and volunteer issues. That was kind of a big problem for them. And being such a small organization and trying to expand in a rising city like Grand Rapids, there's been some limitations for what they can do. Now, mostly the issues with staffing and volunteering is consistent of the amount of people working for the organization, and while they want to expand and serve also has been a struggle. And volunteering and staffing people in the organization, as far as pay, has been one of the main things because most of the nonprofits don't pay as well. So they have a lot of people who have the passion and want to help, but they also need to be compensated as well for what they do. Now, in addition to this staffing and volunteering issues, a problem they've been having with that is burnout from staff. So a lot of people being overworked and underpaid due to everything's going around and having to deal with people's families and issues, along with their own personal lives. It's been a struggle for them more so in the long term. And now employees tend to be more than expected, or that was possible with a position that requires. So they've been asked to do more than what their actual job description requires. Now, as far as leadership techniques, the three that I chose, first was great coaching, second was team building, and the third was effective stress management. And now the first leadership technique, great coaching, that's a technique that is sure to aid in the success of a family future. And by creating development and coaching plans for employees, employees will be able to learn while enhancing their skills as well. And this only happens when coaches can motivate and inspire employees in having positive, rewarding results. Now, a benefit from great coaching would be to improve employee and organizational performance, targets, and goals. And a drawback from great coaching is not having enough time to spend and assist others, or other employees, with their own responsibilities. And another thing to add to with the drawback to that is not only the time, but also it's the cost as well, because you have to train, it requires more time, and it requires more of another task and more inconvenience for managers. Now, the second technique, team building, is a great technique and skill that will benefit any organization needing to implement a family welcoming work environment. Now, a benefit from team building, as it regards to team building, would be identifying attributes of employees as well as improving their productivity. So building a rapport with your coworkers and your team while also increasing their productivity is really key to a family type organization like Family Future. And because they're not so much of a monetary gain to work there, having that family oriented technique or skill would help them tremendously. Now, a drawback from team building is incorporating employees that may not mesh well or get along, which can result in tension or friction within the organization. But that goes back to a benefit, which would be building rapport. So if you can build rapport and make that a consistent thing within that organization, it'll kind of eliminate that drawbacks. Now, as far as effective stress management, that's a key technique to one's own health, but also the health of employees as a whole for the whole organization. Now, implementing a way to practice healthy lifestyle habits, a benefit will be simple as to improve physical and mental health. And because you're in this organization, they're dealing with children and also parents who have a lot of mental health issues. We as volunteers or workers for Family Futures have to be mentally strong in order to help them. Now, a drawback of stress management is the possibility of missing work due to being tired or stress. And in addition, I'm sorry, I lost my spot. In addition to that, the effect on productivity depending on the position. Now, as far as personal insights that I come to conclusion with after volunteering there, and also my position at my current job, I can use problem solving and effective stress management. And when it comes to problem solving, I use this skill pretty much every day in my current role. So no matter whether it's work or personal, that's always something that's beneficial. And since I deal with consumers on a daily basis who need effective assistance with things and who are developmentally disabled, I find ways to solve the issues if they're not compliant or combative. Because at my current job, I deal a lot with people who are combative and have like high functioning autism, etc. So having those problem solving skills and then also being able to cope with the stress of that job and not bring that type of stress home with me, that's something that I think would be beneficial, and also with Family Future as well, because they deal similar with mental health. Now, effective stress management is vital to the type of work because it's invested in people, and you have to be passionate about your position and what you do. Now, it can cause a burnout and unwanted stress, but being able to handle that and get the necessary help early will aid in the positive results of each employee, the organization, and the people we serve. And that is it as far as my portion of the Community Service Project. I want to thank you.